And while we have talked about guilt and its corollary innocence, we have talked about forgiveness at its corollary of judgment, and we've talked about healing. This chapter it covers all of those, but it focuses more specifically on peace. And that's chapter 19. So, welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader for this session is Atisha.
We said before that when a situation has been dedicated wholly to truth, peace is inevitable. Its attainment is the criterion by which the wholeness of the dedication can be safely assumed. Yet we also said that peace without faith will never be attained. For what is dedicated to truth as its only goal is brought to truth by faith. This faith encompasses everyone involved, for only thus the situation is perceived as meaningful and as whole. And everyone must be involved in it, or else your faith is limited and your dedication incomplete.
Mm-hmm. So, several themes there: faith and being wholly dedicated to truth, and the peace that results from that. We could talk about any one of those themes, but the one that I want to bring your attention to, obviously, faith is necessary because faithlessness is not going to lead you to a path of truth or healing or peace. It requires faith. The line that I think is most salient here is this faith encompasses everyone involved. You can think of that in the micro case about everyone involved in the situation of your day, of your experience, and you can also view it as everyone involved in this world, in life. There'd be no reason to limit. The key, as always, is that no one is excluded. So it involves everyone. And then notice the resultant when everyone is included in your faith, the situation is perceived as meaningful and as a whole. If you were to look at the opposite of that, if you exclude a few people and you say, well, I really don't care for those people, then the situation becomes meaningless. You've lost faith. You've lost belief in the power of healing because you've judged against somebody, and that situation no longer is rich with holy meaning, the opportunity for Holy Spirit to move. It has to include everyone. And then it becomes meaningful as a whole. Everyone must be involved in it, or else your faith is limited and your dedication is incomplete. So, this brings up a broader theme that we've touched on before, is that Holy Spirit is here for a purpose and is to teach us so that we can distinguish between that which is meaningful in heaven versus that which is meaningless, that which you should pay no attention to and not get all worked up or triggered by, versus those things you should value and you should hold dear, those things that are meaningful. So with that, those of you who were in yesterday's session have heard this already. But with that, I have a special request. This is a departure from usual. And that is, if you're participating in this session, then I would ask you, you only have to do this once. If you've already heard it, it's not necessary to do it again. I would ask you to send me an email. And in that email, before you send the email, read this line in workbook lesson 13. And in your email, describe what it means and how you can apply it to your life. It can be any length you want. I'm also going to put all this information in the chat for those of you that, rushing to try to, should have told you to take notes. I just added it to the chat. And you have as much time to do this as you want. This is not something you have to do in the next 24 or 48 hours, especially if you're doing the lessons in sequence. You'll be getting there in just a few days. Heidi, you had a hand up?
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. If we learn that everything is meaningless, then how is there anything to recognize? And how can you accept it if there's nothing there to recognize?
All right. So, Heidi, I'm glad that you asked that because I've seen a number of people make similar comments. The Course does not teach that everything is meaningless. The Course teaches that when, from the ego's point of view, everything is meaningless. But it doesn't mean reality is meaningless. It does not mean that love is meaningless. It does not mean that you are meaningless. It means the ego's rendering of those things are meaningless. And so, again, the Holy Spirit is here to teach us the distinction between that which is meaningless and that which is meaningful. And this is a harder lesson to learn than you might think. I mean, after all, we need the Holy Spirit to teach us this because by ourselves, we would get confused about what is meaningful and what is not. For instance, we might make our own illusions appear to be meaningful, and that would be confusion. Or we might discard an act of kindness as being insignificant and not mattering when it might have all the meaning in the world.
Is the reason the first 10 lessons that we're doing right now basically is what I'm making up that anything we see is meaningless?
Our perceptions are meaningless, yes.
Our perceptions of our sight.
So, Heidi, all good questions. We don't have enough time to take all that up right now.
Okay.
But God did not create a meaningless world. So,
okay.
To realize that if you're on lesson 10, there's so much more to learn.
Right.
It's not over yet. And I wish we could dive into all that deeply, but we'll never get through this material tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. So write to me and share your thoughts. And I thank you for that. All right, we're going to go on.
Every situation properly perceived becomes an opportunity to heal the Son of God. And he is healed because you offered faith to him, giving him to the Holy Spirit and releasing him from every demand your ego would make of him. Thus do you see him free. And in this vision does the Holy Spirit share. And since he shares it, he has given it. And so he heals through you. It is this joining him in a united purpose that makes this purpose real, because you make it whole. And this is healing. The body is healed because you came without it and joined the mind in which all healing rests.
So just as a follow-up of what we were just talking about, every situation properly perceived, that's the qualifier, perceived in accordance with the light of the Holy Spirit, is an opportunity to heal the Son of God. And that is meaningful. That is not meaningless. That's an opportunity to heal. As a matter of fact, in that opportunity, those situations properly perceived, you join the Creator in a united purpose that makes this purpose real. That is meaningful. That is what we are here for. That is our function in this time-space matrix, is to both heal ourselves and to help others to heal. And both are vital, healing of yourself as well as your role in helping others to heal. That has meaning. So we want to be open to learning that every situation is an opportunity for a holy instant, for Holy Spirit to intercede. And by the Holy Spirit interceding, that situation becomes meaningful. In the absence of the Holy Spirit, Heidi and others, then in the absence of the Holy Spirit, what do you got? You've just got delusions and illusions and memories of the past. You have to be living in the now along with the Holy Spirit. And in that process where we are united with our brother, this will be interesting. We're going to pick this theme up in the rest of this section. The body is healed because you came without concern for it and instead joined the mind in which all healing rests. This will be elaborated on more as we go.
The body cannot heal because it cannot make itself sick. It needs no healing. Its health or sickness depends entirely on how the mind perceives it and the purpose that the mind would use it for. It is obvious that a segment of the mind can see itself as separated from the universal purpose. When this occurs, the body becomes its weapon, used against this purpose to demonstrate the fact that separation has occurred. The body thus becomes the instrument of illusion, acting accordingly, seeing what is not there, hearing what truth has never said, and behaving insanely, being imprisoned by insanity.
Mm-hmm. So as you know, the body is neutral. It has no judgments. The mind then assigns a role to the body. Yes, the mind can assign the role to the body where it's viewed as a weapon, where it's viewed to reinforce guilt, where it's used to reinforce fear and attack. Yes, the mind can do that. Or the body can, or the mind can see the body for the purposes of healing. And then everything falls in line with the plan of creation. The mind is guided by spirit and uses the body as a means of achieving the goals of spirit. This is why it says when the body's doing that, it needs no healing. Its health or sickness depends entirely on how the mind perceives it and the purpose that the mind would use it for. Please remember this. All the confusion that people have about the role of the body is stated very clearly here. It depends entirely on the mind's choice and the purpose that the mind would use the body for. Again, the body by itself is neutral. It can be used for either good or for healing or for attack?
Do not overlook our earlier statement that faithlessness leads straight to illusions. For faithlessness is the perception of a brother as a body, and the body cannot be used for purposes of union. If then you see your brother as a body, you have established a condition in which uniting with him becomes impossible. Your faithlessness to him has separated you from him and kept you both apart from being healed. Your faithlessness has thus opposed the Holy Spirit's purpose and brought illusions centered on the body to stand between you. And the body will seem to be sick, for you have made of it an enemy of healing and the opposite of truth.
Mm-hmm. So the word faith, this is true of so many words in the Course. The word faith, of course, has many historical connotations. But in the context here, we're talking about faith in a brother, faith or faithlessness towards a brother, and faithlessness towards a brother results in separation, whereas your faith in a brother leads to healing. This is a choice, and we just read a moment ago in the previous paragraph, every situation is an opportunity for healing. The Holy Spirit is ready to move in every situation. The choice, this is why we are co-creators. The choice is up to you to decide whether or not who do you represent in that moment? Are you representing the Holy Spirit, or are you devoid of awareness of the Holy Spirit and you're out on your own representing your ego? It's a choice, and it's a result of you having that choice that we say that you have the power of your mind to choose. And that affects the way you see others, whether or not you see them as merely physical entities or see them as something greater than flesh and blood, and includes how you see yourself. For the same way you see others is the way you see yourself. Your brothers are mirrors of ourselves.
It cannot be difficult to realize that faith must be the opposite of faithlessness. Yet the difference in how they operate is less apparent, though it follows directly from the fundamental difference in what they are. Faithlessness would always limit and attack. Faith would remove all limitations and make whole. Faithlessness would destroy and separate. Faith would unite and heal. Faithlessness would interpose illusions between the Son of God and his Creator. Faith would remove all obstacles that seem to rise between them. Faithlessness is wholly dedicated to illusions. Faith wholly to truth. Partial dedication is impossible. Truth is the absence of illusion. Illusion, the absence of truth. Both cannot be together, nor perceived in the same place. To dedicate yourself to both is to set up a goal forever impossible to attain, for part of it is sought through the body, thought of as a means for seeking out reality through attack. The other part would heal, and therefore calls upon the mind and not the body.
Mm-hmm. So he said the Holy Spirit's purpose is to teach us to distinguish between the meaningful and the meaningless. Look at all the effort they go through to distinguish between the meaninglessness of lack of faith and how meaningful a path we follow when we pursue faith. Paul, you had your hand up.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jonica. Could you just describe faith in terms of, is this in the Holy Spirit? Is it in God? Is it in, could you just elaborate a little bit more on faith?
Yeah, yeah. It's an experience that we have. I prefer to render it, Paul, as a state of mind, of whether or not you're in a state of faith or faithlessness. And we know that you can shift between faith and faithlessness in the same encounter. So it's a state of mind. It's a willingness to believe in the power of spirit. I'm going to mute your microphone, Paul, because we're getting some feedback here. It's a willingness to believe. Whoops. Here we go. To believe that the laws of creation, the laws of forgiveness and healing prevail, and that I have my faith, I'm using the power of my mind is invested in using the laws of healing and creation. That is my purpose. That is what I am trusting and leaning on. It's the fundamental choice of believing without seeing for the laws of mind, the laws of creation. You don't witness them in the same way the body sees the material world. You have to trust in these things without seeing. That's why we call it faith. Susie?
I just have like a practical definition or experience or situation with that I so if in my ego mind I have fear over anything, and I pray to the Holy Spirit to help me get through a situation. I won't be, definitive. And my ego mind will tell me, oh, you can't get through that. Or you just can't get through that. You have to do this, or you have to do that, or think these thoughts. But if I go with faith, for me, that's what it means. The Holy Spirit walks with me. God goes with me wherever I go, whatever, all those great lessons. I'll take the second place to, if I have faith that the Holy Spirit is with me and I can just quietly be through the situation, that's where I have, can use my faith and not my ego. And boy, is it awesome if I get to the other side with the Holy Spirit. And then I say, now I understand what real faith is. So that's just a practical experience for me. And it's, things I would never have done before the course. Because, in my ego mind, I can't get through this. But with the Holy Spirit, I really can. So I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, thank you. Much more can be said about faith, but we'll deal with that. It'll be in later paragraphs.
The inevitable compromise is the belief that the body must be healed and not the mind. For this divided goal has given both an equal reality, which could be possible only if the mind is limited to the body and divided into little parts of seeming wholeness, but without connection. This will not harm the body, but it will keep the delusional thought system in the mind. Here, then, is healing needed, and it is here that healing is. For God gave healing not apart from sickness, nor established remedy where sickness cannot be. They are together, and when they are seen together, all attempts to keep both truth and illusion in the mind, where both must be, are recognized as dedication to illusion and given up when brought to truth and seen as totally unreconcilable with truth in any respect or in any way.
Mm-hmm. So one of the real key clue words here is the inevitable compromise. The Holy Spirit is not here to compromise with illusions, to strike a bargain, to meet the ego halfway. That's an ego attempt to make you believe that we can come to an agreement with the ego here by compromising. And so in this instance, the example is the belief that the body must be healed and not the mind. That's the compromise. It's the investment in a false faith, Paul, that the body is the most important thing, and is the path of my doing better in life, rather than believing in the power of the mind as being central to our ability to heal. And so when we compromise ourselves, we come up with what they're calling here a divided goal that gives both illusions and truth an equal reality. And things spiral on down from there. Once you've convinced yourself that you can meet the Holy Spirit halfway, you've divided your allegiance. And as it says, this will keep the delusional thought system in the mind. And that's exactly what healing is needed for, is to remedy this delusional thought system.
Truth and illusion have no connection. This will remain forever true, however much you seek to connect them. But illusions are always connected, as is truth. Each is united, a complete thought system, but totally disconnected to each other. And to perceive this is to recognize where separation is and where it must be healed. The result of an idea is never separate from its source. The idea of separation produced the body and remains connected to it, making it sick because of the mind's identification with it. You think you are protecting the body by hiding this connection, for this concealment seems to keep your identification safe from the attack of truth. If you but understood how much this strange concealment has hurt your mind, and how confused your own identification has become because of it, you do not see how great the devastation wrought by your faithlessness. For faithlessness is an attack that seems to be justified by its results. For by withholding faith, you see what is unworthy of it, and cannot look beyond the barrier to what is joined with you.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lesson in the course called same versus different. And it's similar to meaningful versus meaningless. It's a lesson of the Holy Spirit, so that we might recognize what is the same and what is different. And it's illustrated here. Illusions are always connected. Their illusions are always the same. And Truth is always the same. Each, both illusions and truth, is united within its own circle, but they are entirely different from one another. Illusions are not the truth, and truth is not illusions. Nor can you ever have the truth emerge out of a bed of illusions. Nor is the opposite true, nor do illusions emerge out of a body of truth. Both are totally disconnected to each other. And you might think that that would be I think, an easy lesson to understand. But in practice, in your own mind, to recognize without strain or effort what is an illusion and what is the truth, that's the goal of this course, so that you're not confused around meaning and meaninglessness, faith and faithlessness, truth and illusion, so that your mind can distinguish as quickly as the Holy Spirit recognizes and speaks to you. Your mind recognizes that. That's when it becomes effortless. That's where you spend less time spinning in confusion, trying to make sense out of illusions, trying to find meaning in a meaningless world, or becoming fearful as a result of belief in a meaningless world. That's when you become free from that ancient prison. And this takes many forms, and the form that's being stressed in this section is where the body and the mind, well, let me rephrase it here, where the mind becomes confused about its relationship to the body. This is level confusion. So this is the example we're using here, but the principle shows up in many other ways as well. And as we've said before, the body by itself is neutral. The mind decides what purpose it gives to the body, how it's going to use the body, whether it's going to use it as a vehicle for extending the Holy Spirit's plan of forgiveness, or forget about what the Holy Spirit says and use it for something else. That's up to the mind to decide. And the mind can get incredibly confused around this simple point. If you but understood how strange of this concealment has hurt your mind, and how confused your own identity has become because of this confusion. This is level confusion. This is the part of the distinctions that our Holy Spirit wants you to learn from her. And it can become when you learn it fully, it becomes second nature. Many of you have expressed how on your third or fourth time through the workbook lessons, now it makes perfect sense. Now it's like so easy to see and understand. Whereas certainly the first time through, it was like, I'm not sure what they're talking about here. This doesn't make sense to me at all. Now it's easy to understand. That's an example of learning right there. It's easy for me to understand what I couldn't understand before.
To have faith is to heal. It is the sign that you have accepted the atonement for yourself and would therefore share it. By faith, you offer the gift of freedom from the past, which you received. You do not use anything your brother has done before to condemn him now. You freely choose to overlook his errors, looking past all barriers between yourself and him, and seeing them as one. And in that one you see your faith is fully justified. There is no justification for faithlessness, but faith is always justified. Faith is the opposite of fear, as much a part of love as fear is of attack. Faith is the acknowledgement of union. It is the gracious acknowledgement of everyone as a son of your most loving Father, loved by him like you, and therefore loved by you as yourself. It is his love that joins you and your brother, and for his love, you would keep no one separate from yours. Each one appears just as he is perceived in the holy instant, united in your purpose to be released from guilt. You see the Christ in him, and he is healed because you look on what makes faith forever justified in everyone.
Mm-hmm. There in this paragraph is, for me, one of the most plain spoken illustrations of forgiveness that I've seen in quite some time, where forgiveness is when you do not use anything your brother has done before to condemn him now, where you freely choose to overlook his errors. It's not saying that in the past there wasn't something done. It's saying that I'm going to overlook that, I'm not going to use that as a basis for condemning the person now, to look past all barriers between yourself and him. That's the key. I'm not going to use my memory of what somebody did in the past and use that as allow that to become a barrier in my mind between in our relationship. I'm going to look past all barriers and see them as one. And when you do that, something amazing happens. When you see your brother with faithful eyes, I call it the eyes of your soul. When you have faith in another brother, all of a sudden you find justification for your faith in that brother. You start to see all the good qualities in that person. Of course, the same is true if you're faithless to your brother. If you're looking for a reason to complain, to hold a grievance against somebody, well, you'll find that too. And when you do that to others, you cannot limit that use of your judgment when you turn towards yourself. You'll use the same criteria to judge yourself. So by practicing forgiveness, you let your brother off the hook. That is to say, you're not condemning him now. And at the same time, you're practicing forgiveness towards yourself. It's like a 2-for-1. By one act of forgiveness, you get double your return. Faith is always justified. So, where's all this going? We're going to need this for our journey of peace. This is a chapter that takes us on an inward journey of peace. We're going to need an allegiance, a loyalty, a trust in faith, even when outside appearances would not be so supportive. It's where you freely choose to overlook a brother's errors because you prefer the path of forgiveness.
Faith is the gift of God, through him whom God has given you. Faithlessness looks upon the Son of God and judges him unworthy of forgiveness. But through the eyes of faith, the Son of God is seen already forgiven, free of all the guilt he laid upon himself. Faith sees him only now because it looks not to the past to judge him, but would see in him only what it would see in you. It sees not through the body's eyes, nor looks to bodies for its justification. It is the messenger of the new perception, sent forth to gather witnesses unto its coming, and to return their messages to you.
This is really good because we've laid the foundation in the earlier reading, and now it's coming forth stronger and stronger. And it really is true from the ego's perspective. Loss of faith in a brother, faithlessness, is a judgment that the other person's not worth it, that they're unworthy of forgiveness. You're not worthy of my love. This is the ego's perspective. I'm not even going to try because you're unworthy of forgiveness. Do you hear how damning that is to your concept of yourself when you judge another in that light? It redounds back to you. So faith, which lives in the now, is able to brush aside all past infractions and see your brother only as they are now, because faith does not look to the past, but would see in him only what it would see in you. It's so true. Unless you can recognize the light in one of you, you won't be able to recognize it in the other. If you can't recognize the light in your brother, you won't be able to recognize it in you. And that's not done through the body's eyes. And I love this line here. Because Paul asked, what is faith? And, we're just trying to use two-dimensional words to describe a five-dimensional spiritual encounter. Faith is the messenger of the new perception. It heralds this new perception of the Holy Spirit, which is sent forth to gather evidence, witnesses that the new perception is coming, and in the process brings back evidence to you. So the example here is, if you trust in another person who may not believe in themselves, but you believe in them, and that light that you share with them is a message, and it will, if you believe in them, it will return that message to you. You will come to believe in yourself because you believed in the light in others.
Faith is as easily exchanged for knowledge as is the real world. For faith arises from the Holy Spirit's perception and is the sign you share it with him. Faith is a gift you offer to the Son of God through him, and wholly acceptable to his Father as to him, and therefore offered you. Your holy relationship, with its new purpose, offers you faith to give unto your brother. Your faithlessness has driven you and him apart, and so you do not recognize salvation in him. Yet faith unites you in the holiness you see, not through the body's eyes, but in the sight of him who joined you, and in whom you are united.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there it happened. I was waiting for the answer to Paul's question earlier. And I've come to trust that this works, that somebody asks a question, that the answer will appear shortly. And Paul indicated, where does faith come from? And I wasn't ready to, I don't have the answers to that, but it's right here. Faith arises from the Holy Spirit's perception and is the sign that you share the Holy Spirit's perception with Him. Faith, so you have to practice it. This is about application. When you practice the Holy Spirit's perception of seeing forgiveness, seeing your purpose of being here is to heal yourself and help others to heal, that you have a function and a part to play in God's plan for salvation. And that is to bring forgiveness and healing to others. And in sharing that perception with the Holy Spirit, faith arises out of that sense of purpose. It's a belief in something that is in time would seem to be yet to manifest. It would seem to be some healing in the future, but you're acting upon the belief as if it's now. And by your doing that, the Holy Spirit brings healing to us in the now. And so faith arises from your willingness to believe that. And it's your faith is the indication that you're participating with the Holy Spirit in the function that she gave you. It's a gift you offer to the sonship through the Holy Spirit. What a privilege to be able to make those choices and to have those opportunities, as we read, I think it was the first paragraph, every situation is an opportunity. And it blesses everybody involved. It's to give all to all. Everybody involved benefits. This new purpose, your holy relationship, supplies you with the faith to give to your brother. So Paul, that's where it originates from being an active participant in the Holy Spirit's plan of salvation, from being an active member, a co-creator, a healer, of fulfilling your function in this plan. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. Boom. That's an amazing workbook lesson that's coming up for many of you very soon.
Grace is not given to a body, but to a mind. And the mind that receives it looks instantly beyond the body and sees the holy place where it was healed. There is the altar where the grace was given, in which it stands. Do you then offer grace and blessing to your brother? For you stand at the same altar where grace was laid for both of you. And be you healed by grace together, that you may heal through faith. In the holy instant, you and your brother stand before the altar God has raised unto himself, and both of you. Lay faithlessness aside and come to it together. There will you see the miracle of your relationship as it was made again through faith. And there it is that you will realize that there is nothing faith cannot forgive. No error interferes with its calm sight, which brings the miracle of healing with equal ease to all of them. For what the messengers of love are sent to do, they do, returning the glad tidings that it was done to you and your brother, who stand together before the altar from which they were sent forth.
Mm-hmm. So in this latter paragraph here, they're referring to in the holy instant. So in that encounter, holy encounter, where your faith is activated, otherwise it would not be a holy instant if you were mind was elsewhere. You were miracle ready, and we're not saying that it results in a perfection of all behaviors and actions and words, that errors never occur. What we are saying is that when those errors occur, they don't interfere. Well, I'm going to put my pointer up. Those errors do not interfere with the calm sight, and that they're brushed away as being meaningless, as unimportant, not worth your judging against them and condemning another as well as yourself. You just look beyond those errors, because the call to forgive through and heal is where your faith is laid, not in looking for opportunities to condemn and judge. And this brings the miracle of healing with ease.
As faithlessness will keep your little kingdoms barren and separate, so will faith help the Holy Spirit prepare the ground for the most holy garden that he would make of it. For faith brings peace, and so it calls on truth to enter and make lovely what has already been prepared for loveliness. Truth follows faith and peace, completing the process of making lovely that they begin. For faith is still a learning goal, no longer needed when the lesson has been learned, yet truth will stay forever. Let then your dedication be to the eternal, and learn how not to interfere with it and make it slave to time. For what you think you do to the eternal, you do to you. Whom God created as his son is slave to nothing, being Lord of all, along with his creator. You can enslave a body, but an idea is free, incapable of being kept in prison or limited in any way except by the mind that thought it. For it remains joined to its source, which is its jailer or its liberator, according to which it chooses as its purpose for itself.
Let's get to that last line in a moment. But before we do, it's more of an advanced concept, what I'm about to share. So, if that doesn't land on you right now, not to be concerned about it. But there is a progression through this journey to atonement, and it's spoken about right here. And we're going to pick it up with faith. Now, there's some things that happen before faith, but we're going to pick it up with faith. When we practice faith, it brings peace. Peace emerges out of a practice of faith. In the absence of faith, you're not going to find peace. So then one progresses to the path to the place of peace, which is the focus of this entire chapter. And what does peace do? It calls on truth, the next level, which is a type of illumination of the mind, where the mind can now understand and appreciate and share in a realization which ultimately awakens the mind. Peace calls on truth to enter. So it's the beginning, and make lovely what was already been prepared for loveliness. It's the my mind just switched to what we were sharing yesterday. Some of you may have been here when David spoke about fire walking, or walking barefoot over a bed of coals. And I made the analogy that before we're standing in front of that bed of coals and your turn is next, is analogous to when you're at the beginning of this program, the mind's confused, and you are obviously afraid of what's about to happen. You're going to walk barefoot over these coals, right? And then the Course tells us that the Holy Spirit is our guide through this ring of fire, an experience that only the Holy Spirit can safely guide us through, this ring of fire, and that we're not left alone and we need not be afraid with her as a guide. That ring of fire, that bed of coals, ring of fire, is what we're going to cover in the latter parts of this chapter. And when we get to the other side and we've made it, is analogous to this in this course, to experience, to have learned what this course has to teach, which is to bring peace to your life. It's not until you're at the other side of the firewalk and you're finished that you're relieved that everything is fine. And that is not the end of the journey, but that prepares you for the final step when truth enters and makes lovely what was always been lovely. It makes visible to your inner eye the light within you. So what are we saying? It's saying a lot of things here. That let your dedication be to the truth, to what is eternal, and learn how not to interfere with it, and how not, and make it slave, how not to make your experiences a slave to time. This is the distinction we're talking about between faith and faithlessness. Learn the difference between them. Learn the difference between what is meaningful and what is meaningless. Learn the difference between truth and illusions. And let that, and if you just learn those three things and then choose consistently, the path will open up before you. And then it goes on, just to wrap up here, for what are we talking about? You can enslave a body, but an idea is free, which is incapable of being kept in prison or limited in any way because of the mind that thought it. 4, an idea remains joined to its source. Ideas leave not its source. An idea remains joined to its source, which is, the idea is its jailer or liberator, according to which it chooses as its purpose for itself. You get to, and in this case, your body is an idea. And it becomes a jailer or a liberator according to which the mind chooses as its purpose. What is the purpose of your body? What are you doing here in a body? What are you we're talking about your dedication. What is your dedication, your sense of meaning in life, it's your mind to choose. The Holy Spirit offers you the answers, but it's still up to you to willingly choose on a consistent basis until that new perception that we've been speaking about becomes your own perception, until you join with it and it becomes second nature to you. That's all that we're going to read about for this moment. But that was a lot. That was a big introduction there to chapter 19, which is really profound. For many of you, you've been through this at least once or more. I think it really helps to be very grounded in the earlier concepts of guilt and forgiveness and healing, so that we can then understand these later concepts of faith and peace and truth. And we'll cover all that in the next the next 2 weeks. And it's a wonderful journey. So I'm so glad that we're able to do it together. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Atisha, thank you for your reading. And look forward to remember to send me an email sometime in the next 10 days explaining workbook lesson 13, the third paragraph, what it means to you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thanks, Atisha. Jonica, I can't read on Saturday.
Okay, next Saturday. All right. Thanks for letting me know, David.
No. Okay.
Thanks, Atisha.
Are you,
Thanks,
David,
everybody.
available? Let me stop the recording here a minute. Are you